last Wednesday of this month. Only one day left to kiingia August. Nakwambia tunaenda sawa sawa. We're already below 150 days to Christmas. I think we are about 149, 148 hapo. So mambo inaendelea sawa sawa. Karibu sana to Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Ndimuli.
My name is Ann Odida. Being 30th of July, it is World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, and this comes at a very critical time in Kenya as well, amid, of course, allegations of organ trafficking, which is also a form of human trafficking at the Medihill hospital. And in case it's found guilty of these allegations leveled against it, then clearly that is organ trafficking and human trafficking as well. My name is Ann Odida. Karibu sana.
I look at the dailies today. The headlines are as varied as they come. This one on the Daily Nation, I think, is going to become one of the biggest discussions today. Tanzania jobs ban hits Kenyans hard. And we'll be back to take a look at who cannot work in Tanzania going forward. Yes.
The Standard mortgaging Kenyans.
Matters debts. Madynasty wangangania ofalme. Madynasty washarudi.
The Star senators want real-time access to counties' money records.
Right. People Daily, why it is a make or break for IEBC.
And Business Daily, banks still lend at same loan base rate and CBK's U10.
All right, for State of the Nation, we'll be having these three gentlemen, Senator Joe Nyoto of Murang'a, Ngujiri Wambugu, who is a former MP in Nyeri Town, and Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo. They'll be in studio starting at 6:30 to discuss the big headlines today. Tukivuka boda, tunaanza kule Uganda. Maswala bado ni ya NRM, siasa za chama tawala kule Uganda. On the edge, this is a Daily Monitor. The July 17 NRM primaries left some candidates with landslide victories, while others survived by the skin of their teeth to win the seats, setting the stage for titanic battles in the January 2026 general election. So Tanzania election in October, 2 months later in January, Uganda wanaingia pale. So at least politics in Uganda and Tanzania, the biggest discussion. So kuna wale ambao walishinda viti waliponea chupu chupu. Some of them are there on the front page of this paper. Other stories given prominence, Buganda clans and their role in the coronation of Kabaka, and a 6-gun salute for Kainyehamba send-off. That's the judge who passed on last week. That's a Daily Monitor.
Still in Uganda, new vision at the NRM. Socialites, soldiers probed over car thefts, and leaders cited in global racket. That story is on page 3. And of course, that story on NRM, Uganda politics, Museveni shuffles RDC's list inside, and this story has been covered on page 4. Wako hapa. Not much happening today in Uganda actually. NUP starts vetting 7,800 aspirants. NRM sets date for residual elections, matters election on the front page of the New Vision as well. All right,
it's the same story even when you go to Tanzania. It's matters politics. The Citizen, what's next after CCM accesses almost 30 MPs? That's a question. The ruling Chama Cha Mapinduzi has dropped from its preliminary nomination list dozens of MPs who served in the last 5 years, meaning that the only way for them to return to parliament is either through their appointment by the head of state or winning seats via opposition parties in the October 29 general election. Wameshindwa kusecure ticket ya chama tawala. Na unajua kama uko kwa chama tawala kule Tanzania utaumia kiasi. That's a big story there. Other stories given prominence, strong support for ban on foreigners in small businesses. And this is a story on the front page of the Daily Nation. Yes, it is a big discussion because the EAC agreement or treaty allows free movement of goods and services and human beings across all the borders in East Africa, and you can work anywhere. But now something has happened in Tanzania. The government there has decided that there are some jobs which foreigners are not allowed to do. And we'll be looking at that. So hapa kwenye hata wanazungumzia kule Tanzania, the business community has expressed strong support for a newly gazetted government directive that bars non-citizens from engaging in various small-scale business activities.
Wow.
Yes, kama salon.
Interesting.
Even tourism guide. Kama ni Mkenya, you cannot be a tour guide in Tanzania.
Na wamefurahia.
Of course, it's a form of protectionism. So Tanzanian businessmen will be happy, but then again, what if we do the same here in Kenya? And we tell them, kuna vitu huwezi fanya hapa. Government introduces mandatory exams for key public sector roles, matters education there, and experts sound alarm over AI threats to election integrity. These are just some of the stories given prominence by the papers in Tanzania.
Still in Tanzania, gazeti la Mwananchi, kishindo cha CCM chaweka kando vigogo kwenye ubunge na uwakilishi. Robo tatu ya watainia wakatwa, mawaziri ma-RC wa zamani wachomoza. Vita vya baki kwa wajumbe, hofu ya mpasuko ya tanda, na makala asema Chama cha Mapinduzi iko imara. Different stories there.
Hao ndo ameachwa hapa nje. Walikuwa ma-MP wengine ni mawaziri lakini hawajapata tikiti ya chama tawala CCM.
Nasema majimbo haya kitaumana kura za maoni. Chama cha Mapinduzi Tarimba, Kariuki, Msigwa, Peneza, hawa watu wanne hao. Kulingana na katibu wa NEC anasema endapo hutapata nafasi kwa muda huu katika uteuzi, nitakapotangaza uendelee kutoa ushirikiano, kwani Chama cha Mapinduzi kina nafasi nyingi za kukitumikia. Kama unaambiwa chukua hii leftover, wewe enda serve hapo hiyo.
Kama hujapata tikiti kuwa volunteer kwa chama. Hivyo ndo naambiwa.
Na mawaziri wa wakilishi wainguliwa Zanzibari. Simanzi Tabora, watoto 5 wateketea kwa moto chumbani. Na kule juu pia biashara hizi ni marufuku kufanywa na wageni. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa 48.
This angle will be back to take a look at it from the Kenyan perspective. So before we come back to take a look at the local dailies, tuangazie masuala ya hali ya anga, and some places are quite warm across the country, others are a bit cold this morning. I know Ann pia alikuwa na
Shiva. Sema tu.
Umeumia. Okay, this is just the outlook of the continent in as far as cloud cover is concerned, not much really. But let's take a look at different areas of the country. We start off at the coast in Malindi. Light rain expected there. It is slightly warm, 23 degrees this morning, highs of 27 degrees, but quite some rainfall throughout the day. 10.1 millimeters of rain in Malindi. So easy holiday weather kama uko Malindi. Tafuta kwingine. Probably go to Homa Bay. Yeah.
19 degrees in Homa Bay this morning, feels like 25. Clear skies with periodic clouds. Highs of 28 degrees in Homa Bay. Precipitation today 0.0 millimeters.
I was right by saying you could choose Homa Bay as your holiday destination because it's quite warm. It's actually warmer than Malindi. Yeah. Another warm place is Garissa this morning, 22 degrees. Clear skies. Highs of 30 degrees. Quite warm. I don't expect a lot of rainfall there, 0.3 millimeters. Garissa pia ni warm. Sasa tuende kule kuna baridi.
13 degrees in Eldoret, a partly cloudy day, highs of 22. Precipitation here in this city, 14 millimeters. Hapa kutanyesha na kutanyesha sana. Starting noontime.
All right. Limuru is also another cold area. Haiko mbali sana na Nairobi. 9 degrees, I think that's the coldest. 9 degrees and it feels like it. Highs of 20 degrees. Uko, by the way, hii sijui ndio inaitwa weather for who. Partly cloudy.
Sema tu weather for two.
0.3 millimeters of rainfall. Uko kuna kijibaridi proper. Wewe ulikuwa na shiva. Enda Limuru uone.
Finally, Nairobi feels like 12, but I know it's 13ish. Feels like it. Partly cloudy day. Highs of 23 degrees in Nairobi. Precipitation here, 0.1 millimeters.
And this is actually cooler than yesterday. Yesterday was a bit warm. I think the highs were at 25. This time it's going down to 23. So kuna baridi kule. Tuone kama hiyo baridi imeaffect traffic. Ni kama imeaffect hii system yetu leo. Baridi imeingia kwa...
Slowly on the baby girl.
Na kweli ni baby girl. So as far as traffic is concerned, the usual trouble spots kama pale Thika Road, Pangani Interchange, it's building up. In fact, nothing out of the ordinary today. This is normal traffic for a Wednesday morning. Stretches along Jogoo Road, Makadara and pale City Stadium. Haile Selassie Avenue around Railways Bus Station and inaitwaje hiyo barabara? Landis Road. It's getting busy. Thika Road sio kubaya sana, hata pale between Kasarani and Garden City, kidogo tu, hata pale Pangani Interchange, we can't really say it's a problem. That's very usual traffic. Outer Ring Road, kama kawaida pale fedha na Tasia, matatu zinabeba watu. Kangundo Road is looking good. The other side of town, green on all roads, Ngong Road, Southern Bypass, Waiyaki Way into town, it's looking good. So, ni kama leo hiyo baridi imeaffect. Watu wanafanya kazi from home ituda pia.
All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day.
Every mistake whispers, stay humble. life isn't about being right, it's about learning, evolving, and honoring the journey with an open heart.
All right, let's come back and take a look at the local dailies.
Indeed, and this story on the front page of the Daily Nation is also there on the front pages of papers in Tanzania. It is also there on the front page of the Business Daily, and we'll take a look at it. Tanzania jobs ban hits Kenyans hard. Dodoma's move bars foreigners from select businesses, listen to this, in the country that will affect thousands of Kenyans, with the Suluhu regime sanction infuriating local traders and MPs who have asked Nairobi to impose retaliatory measures. But really, will we be able to do it? Kenya has never been fond of protectionist ideas. So, repair of mobile phones and electronic devices, that's one job that as a Kenyan, as a foreigner, you won't be allowed to do in Tanzania. Salon business, unless conducted in a hotel or for tourism purposes. Tour guiding within the country, and now this one I think is the biggest. Can you imagine how many Kenyan drivers take foreigners from Kenya or napeleka Serengeti, from the Masa, especially now with the wildebeest migration, kutoka Kenya wakiingia Serengeti. Brokerage or agency in businesses and real estate, ownership and operation of micro and small industries. These are the jobs that cannot, these are the business activities prohibited for non-citizens in Tanzania. If Kenya was to do this, italeta shida sana. Now, critics say Dodoma's policy runs counter to provisions of the East African Community Treaty. Ni kama EAC treaty ni kama siku hizi imekuwa tu ni karatasi. Well, interesting. At least a positive story on the front page of the Daily Nation. Mother and son reunited after 14 years. Emotional return for man's spared execution in Saudi Arabia. After 14 years of being locked up in a Saudi Arabian prison, and with a long stretch of that time spent on death row, Stephen Munyaho, who is popularly known as Steve-O, is finally back on Kenyan soil, and you can see him there in that embrace with his mother. Najua sama mother's love, however old you may be, mapenzi ya mama, wacha tu. Mishra fighting off organ trafficking charges there on the front pages. Uhuru Raila plot political survival ahead. I think that story tutaangalia tukifika kwa Taifa Leo. Kule ndani nafikiri kulikuwa na story moja nzuri. ODM stormy meeting. It features there. There was a stormy meeting as Raila set up team to review Ruto deal. Sifuna aliyekuwa kwa kona jana. Kameanza kusema. Anyway, back page, and we focus on Chan. 3 days to go. Harambee Stars firepower stepping up the plate. Coach McCarthy has been forced to rejig following unavailability of the top league's top 2 scorers. They're still focusing on Harambee Stars, who will play their first game against DRC at the Kasarani on Sunday. Yes, the games kick off this Saturday. The opening ceremony will be in Tanzania. That's the Daily Nation.
All right. Let's take a look at the Standard now. Mortgaging Kenyans is the headline here on the front page of this newspaper. Auction future. As President William Ruto's government rolls out a controversial securitization model to fast-track infrastructure, experts warn it is a financial time bomb, borrowing against future taxes, bypassing parliament and risking constitutional breach. Now, critics call it reckless, opaque, and tantamount to mortgaging Kenyans' future for short-term political optics.
You know what they've done? Mafuta pesa ilipanda. Out of that, there's a fuel levy of 7 shillings. Iliongezwa pale. Sasa hiyo 7 shillings wameweka kama sasa hiyo ndo collateral. Wakachukua loan ya 44 billion shillings ya kujenga Talanta Stadium. Ndindi Nyoro akaongea akasema hapa hii si vizuri, akafutwa kazi. Alitolewa kwa Budget and Appropriations Committee jana. Sababu alisema hiyo.
This is economic sabotage, says one former Treasury insider. You don't tax citizens today just to gamble with their tomorrow. Experts are wondering in whose interest are government officials deploying these schemes. Mortgaging Kenyans. Kweli inapandishwa pale, kumbe they're using it to build something else. This story is on page 4. Can take a look at it. Stark numbers are here. Kenya's public debt has surged to 11.51 trillion shillings. That is 67% of GDP, bridging legal thresholds and drawing sharp criticism over the government's aggressive use of debt securitization to raise funds. And plans such as 175 billion shillings fuel levy bond and 44.7 billion shillings stadium bond have sparked concerns that the government is bypassing constitutional safeguards. On the top strip, teachers to face murder charge after a boy 14 years old was killed and hanged in cover-up. Two teachers.
Very sad story.
Very sad. Two teachers are now facing criminal charges after Kericho court ruled they staged a suicide to cover up the savage beating of Enoch Kipkoech. The Standard 8 pupil was found hanging in a school bathroom. On the inside pages, joy, tears as Steve reunites with family after death row reprieve. Man jailed 20 years for killing his wife during drunken quarrel. Government's use of taxes as collateral could sink the country. That story on the front page. This one here. Journalist presents video photos in Rex Masai case. A photojournalist testified yesterday on this case. And on the back page of the Standard, 2024 Chan, is it 3 days?
3 days to go,
3 days.
starting on Saturday.
August 2nd to August 30th. Daniel Sakari, we can't miss our own party. Harambee Stars defender says the nation team should be on the podium in their home tournament, and Kenya will host the tournament final on August 30th at Kasarani Stadium. That's the Standard.
All right. Taifa Leo, nazungumzia dynasty. Wanang'ang'ania ufalme. Dynasty ni kina nani? According to this paper, the Kenyatas, Mois and Odingas. We have their fathers and the sons. So mamlaka yaonekana kuanza kuzipokonya familia za kifalme za Kenyatta, Odinga na Moi. Wamefika ukingoni. Ushawishi wa kizazi cha Moi umedidimia zaidi, huku wa Kenyatta na Odinga ukishika mkondo wa kuyumbayumba. Nakumbuka before in the lead to the 2022 elections, debate ya dynasty versus hustler ilikuwa kubwa sana. Anazungumzia hapa. So anasema Odinga ni dynasty, Moi na Kenyatta. Marufuku kwa vibarua wa kigeni Tanzania. Pia hii imepewa kipaumbele kwenye gazeti hili kwa ukurasa wa mbele, na tunasema kama hapa Kenya wataamua kufanya vile Tanzania wamefanya, you can imagine how many foreigners, especially from Rwanda and Burundi, working in Kenya as hawkers, as barbers, as saloonists.
Yeah.
Yes? Caretakers. Na hizo ndio shida pale.
Yeah.
Vidokezo zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili wanasema Mpox, hofu Mombasa ikiongoza, kuna visa 4 vipya vimegunduliwa huku watu 23 wakilazwa. Na Kilifi na Meru za shuhudia ukuaji mkuu. Kaunti hizo pamoja na Elgeyo Marakwet zaongoza. Na ukumbuke kuna Devolution Conference coming up. Devolution Conference 2025 will be hosted in Homa Bay. I think from 12th of August. Maswala ya county naendelea. Pale juu pesa shule za fungwa mapema, nyingi zalalamika kuishiwa hela baada ya serikali kupunguza mgao. Na maswala ya chana pigo kwa Harambee Stars, mvamizi tegemeo Bajaber aondoka kusini akielekea Tanzania. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
The Star senators want real-time access to counties' money records. Governors under pressure to open up county accounts. Na tukiangalia ndani tujue story nasema vipi. It has been covered on page 4 and 5. Let's take a look at it. Now, it says the war on corruption in county governments has intensified, with senators now demanding access to automated financial records from the National Treasury. And the move comes amid a surge in graft allegations in the devolved units, with several governors under investigation by the EACC and others already battling court cases. Now, in a move that could expose financial malpractice and potentially trigger a standoff between lawmakers and governors, the Senate is pushing for real-time access to the Integrated Financial Management Information System, that is IFMIS. Right. Sifuna cornered as Raila and Top Guns rally behind Ruto. Na wakamweka tena address aseme we are in support of the broad-based.
He is a spokesperson of the party. But the irony that he's the one who has to read out the statement from the Central Committee. Wale anakaa anacheka lakini nasikia mkutano yuko ya kucheka. Huko na kicheko kule ndani.
Hata yeye mwenyewe ndani akitembea tu hapa nje mshua haipendezi.
There was a lot of banging of tables. So I hear.
Mother's 14-year fight brings son home from Saudi Arabia death row. Sudan condemns Kenya as RSF names parallel government, and Sudan has yet again condemned what it terms the approval and facilitation by Kenya of meetings held by the rebel rapid support forces in Nairobi, which have culminated in the announcement of a parallel government. We talked about this.
We've been talking about this, yes. Issues around Kenya's diplomacy. Hey, lakini nafikiri hapa kuna kazi. Sasa unaona Tanzania wanaleta maneno mengine. Sudan wameleta shida.
Reprieve for Naivasha MP as court defers plea taking. That is Jane Kihara. She was arrested sometime last week. Was it last week? But not last week. That's the Star, fresh, independent and different. Grab a copy at 60 Kenyan shillings. And
we can just say that I think the work is cut out for the CS in charge of foreign affairs, Musalia Mudavadi. He needs to be fighting on very many different fronts. Cross-border with Tanzania, protectionist moves, will we do the same here? Kule Sudan, wameambiwa, nyinyi ndio mnaleta parallel government huku kwetu. People Daily, different story altogether. Why it is a make or break for IEBC. Agencies required to conduct by-elections, register, audit roll, educate voters, and procure equipment for polls all in 2 years. And I may add another, review boundaries. Kama wataweza. That story is on page 4. Enye kazi wako nayo ni nyingi, but they have exactly 2 years between now and election day, 2027. That photo that features on other front pages there of this happy parent and son who were reunited yesterday still makes it to the front page of the People Daily. The reward for a mother's love, resilience, hope and prayer, and she never gave up. I remember when she came to TV47 just looking for help from media to actually highlight the story, and I met her. And back then, because it was almost like a year ago, it looked like a gone case, but she managed to get him back. Wow. A mother's love. Happy for them. The new media code of conduct is a loaded travesty. They've done a commentary inside wakiangalia the new media code of conduct, but according to this person who's written this comment, anasema hii iko na shida. Hii ni kama tumerudi nyuma, tunaenda kwa zile enzi za kitambo.
Kama being gagged.
Okay. Ni kama tunakuwa gagged. Hivyo ndo anasema yeye. Pale juu, everything you need to know about Mpox, and the People Daily have done justice on page 3 of this paper. They've broken down everything you need to know about Mpox, because watu wengi hawajui na hawaelewi. Kuna picha pale lakini hazikae vizuri. Yeah. So kitaka, if you want to know more, just go to page 2 of the People Daily. You'll get that story.
Business Daily, banks to lend at same loan base rate in CBK's U-turn, and the CBK has retreated from its plan to control lending rates using its benchmark rate, handing a victory to commercial lenders who preferred to use the interest charged on short-term loans between banks to determine borrowing costs. And official correspondence between the CBK and commercial banks show that the banking sector regulator has made a U-turn and abandoned its earlier proposal that lenders use the CBK as the base for pricing loans. Kenya leaders protest as Tanzania bans foreign businesses, and Kenyan lawmakers and businesses leaders in East Africa are protesting the latest roadblock erected by Tanzania, barring foreigners from accessing its market for farm produce and setting up small businesses in a bid to shield local companies. That story is covered on page 3. And who are these lawmakers who are protesting?
Kenyan MPs generally, because you see now they have to answer back Tanzania.
Yeah.
Huwezi fungia border na kuna EAC.
Lakini sasa wata take back whatever they said about foreign businesses, really.
No, it's now a directive in Tanzania. There's nothing much you can do. Now the only thing that Kenya can do is probably put similar measures in Kenya that no Tanzanian can come here and
tit
do.
For tat.
Yeah, tit for tat. Unakumbuka ile vita tariff barriers, zile tariffs Trump was imposing on China and other countries.
Yeah.
The only way to do it is to do the same on your end. Yeah.
On the ticker carrier unlocks 86.5 billion shillings from disputes with farms and individuals. Leapfrog exits Good Life Pharmacy after 9 years. Why Kenyans still favor investing in SACCOs and banks. They say familiarity has seen Kenyans continue to favor investing through traditional vehicles such as SACCOs and commercial banks. A new survey shows, lakini experts wanasemanga, MMF is the best way to go in terms of investment.
All right, so those are the dailies and it's exactly 23 minutes past the hour. Tuangalie Karakacha wanasema nini. Lakini just before that, a reminder that at 6:30, starting 6:30 and heading all the way to 8 a.m. We'll be having these three gentlemen in studio. Senator John Yoto of Murang'a, Njiru Wambugu is a former MP Nyeri Town, and Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo. They'll be in studio helping us break down these big headlines today. ODM, big headline. What Tanzania has done, big headline. The debt issue is also a big headline today. Tujue cartoonists wanasema nini sasa? Wamechora nani ndio tujue story ni kama gani? People Daily. Kuna watu wamesimama pale juu ya mlima. This is a cliff. They're actually using a ladder to get there. And by the look of things, this caricatures of those individuals who are considered united opposition. Namwona David Maraga, Fred Matiang'i, na wengineo Martha Karua, Eugene Wamalwa, huyu nani hapa?
Rigathi. That is
Ni Rigathi.
Kingmaker.
Kalonzo Musyoka na hata Jimmy Wanjigi amemake it pale. Lakini jamaa moja anauliza, are we going to make it to the other end as a block or blocks? Yes. Questions about the unity, so-called unity of the opposition, and how long it can last. Lakini Maraga shashika bana yake anasema Maraga tosha.
Yeah, mumtu yapo. This is
Daily Nation.
Daily Nation. That's story on Sifuna. Ameambiwa pale ODM Central Committee fully supports the broad-based government. Yanangoja tu kuwaambia.
Lakini unaona hiyo broad-based hiyo Central Committee ni nani?
Kina Oburu Odinga.
Ni baba.
Ni yeye?
Yeye kila kitu ni yeye. Wale wengine wanakuja tu lakini baba ndo ana make decision. Yeye he's a Central Committee. SG anangojea tu hapo yeye muamua aje yanaenda kwa microphone.
Lakini wanasema ODM ni baba anyway.
ODM ni baba na baba ni ODM. Yeah. That's a cartoon on the Daily Nation. We have one more here on the Star. Opposition leaders once again find themselves on the cartoon, meaning that this is a big discussion. And their unity or otherwise there. Wanacheza karata pale na kuna jamaa na suggest let's talk shares already. Tutagawana aje na hii italeta shida. Umeona pale wengine wanauliza will we make it to the end as a block or as blocks? Na hapa tena wanazungumzia nini? Shares. It means it's another theme that needs to be talked about. Ni vile tu haiko kwa front pages leo.
Finally, the Standard. Who of the following is the odd one out and why? Social Studies grade 3. On the other side, kuna options pale, President Moi, President Kibaki, President Uhuru na President Ruto. Lakini student and mtoto anajibu pale Ruto because people say he's one time. The caricature.
Hii cartoon ya Standard sio sisi tumesema. Ni kusoma tu tumesoma vile imekuja.
Social Studies class.
Social Studies. Ati amesema nini? Ati Ruto is the odd one out. Why? Because people say he's
one time.
Okay.
Today being a Wednesday, we're talking matters relationship. Is your phone hurting your relationship? Is your phone hurting your relationship? Okay. So the councillors, Richard Ziwa Zimbalist and Jane Gitau will be here to tell us if at all there's a possibility your phone is hurting your relationship and how that is actually possible.
Technology imefika hapo, tutafanya nini? Can there be a relationship right now without the phone? Can you imagine a relationship without a phone right now in 2025? Hauna simu, huwezi kumpata kwa simu.
Yeah. All right, we'll be taking a look at that starting 8 a.m. to 9 a.m.
I can see we have like 3 minutes or so, so I think we can take a look at the traffic situation to whether anything has changed. And yes, it has. You can see sections that were yellow at around 6 at the top of the hour, but it's still comfortable traffic. Leo ni kama watu waendi kazini kweli kweli. Okay, I think pale Eastern Bypass it's getting busy all the way from that roundabout ya Jomo Kenyatta, not Jomo Kenyatta, the Kenya Airways, all the way paka Cabanas, it's getting busy there. Outer Ring Road 2, areas like Further, Tasia, Pipeline, pale. You can see that long stretch of red. Ukiingia Jogoo Road, pale Makadara, it's getting busier. Also as you get closer to the City Stadium roundabouts. Other than that, nothing out of the ordinary. Pangani Interchange, it's building slowly, and you can see traffic on Thika Road is now stretching back mpaka pale Utali Drift. Kutoka Survey, it will take some time there. But after that, it's green all the way into town. The other roads, by there, nothing has changed. It's green on all the other major roads, especially on the other side of town. You can get to the CBD very fast. All right.
So interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X at TV47 News KE. 22047 is our SMS line. My handle on X is at @Ann_Odida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe.
My handle is at Fred Indimuli. See you after the break.
The red tape, the hardball, the shame, the glory, the secrets, the covert, the overt, the good, the bad, the ugly, the wins, the losses, the squabbles, the treaties, the twists, the turns, the tenders, the contracts, the game, the drama, the spats, the dossiers, the scandals, the naked truth.
Even their clandestine meetings.
Everything you ever wanted to know, now you'll know with a new boldly reimagined and revamped Star. Grab a copy of the Star because smart people read the Star.
We understand that time flies. That's why at Mount Kenya University, we enable you to keep pace by offering flexible learning opportunities. We are calling on teachers to enroll for distance, institution-based, and electronic learning programs. Let us equip you with skills needed to guide and inspire the next generation. Intake is in progress. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities.
Discover. The world. How it was. How it is. How it will be. Around you. Discover the world around you with us.
When someone chokes, advise them to cough. And if this is not effective, bend them forward and give them about 5 back blows to try and clear the blockage. And if they're still choking, give them up to 5 tummy pushes by holding them around the waist and pushing inwards and upwards above their belly button. If they are still choking, call for medical assistance.
In a nation where headlines shift like shadows, where power games play out behind polished podiums, we ask probing questions. Who is steering the ship? Why is my hustle not enough? And where is justice for the ordinary mwananchi? We uncover, we question, we connect the dots. This is not just another talk show. This is a demand, because democracy is not a slogan. As they say, it's a demand. The insight. Truth has a new address.
You don't build a business, you build the people. Then the people build the business. Zig Ziglar.
Working together is a great starting point when it comes to tackling the many social and environmental issues we face today, whether it's in our own communities or with people from further afield. Cooperation builds understanding, and that is something we all need these days. Welcome to Eco Africa. I'm Chris Alems in Lagos, Nigeria.
We're happy to share some inspiring stories with you on Eco Africa. I'm Malama Mukonde here in Lusaka, Zambia.
The show is giving us an idea of not only the challenges, but also a whole lot of new opportunities that are coming along with that energy transition and expansion in Africa.
Make your spices pop. If you're making a dish that relies heavily on spices for seasoning, toast the spices on a pan for about 30 seconds until they're fragrant before adding them to your recipe. It vastly improves their taste and amplifies the flavor.
Welcome to Kids on the Block, the show where fun never stops and every kid shines. Whip up tasty treats in our cooking corner, bust a move in the dance zone, dive into magical tales during story time, and explore the wild world of animals like never before. So grab your friends and tune in, because on Kids on the Block, there's something awesome for everyone. Saturdays at 9 a.m.
Did you know that a dab of lavender essential oil can help alleviate the itching from insect bites? Lavender oil has calming and anti-inflammatory properties that can be soothing on the skin.
Distinguished fans and dear friends, it's me again, the one and only queen of the truth of esports.
Come on, Cricket, come on, have a look. That's amazing.
Is that you? But why? Anyone there?
Who are you hiding from?
Once again, who are you?
Train people well enough so they can live. Treat them well enough so they don't want to. Richard Branson.
This Friday with Betty brings you closer to the voices shaping the country.
My message to all Kenyans is that let's build our nation. We have no other home. We have no other place.
It's an easy, honest, and unforgettable conversation from influential leaders.
I believe that leadership is about others. Leadership is about service to the community.
Stairs ni hizo, like lazima upande hizo stairs. Wezi amka useme nataka kuwork na brand kubwa.
To chart-topping musicians.
It's the ups, the downs that make this whole thing a beautiful place to be.
From celebrated actors to thought-provoking opinion leaders.
Waseke Mburu wakiwa pale umesikia vizuri mfi. Because even mimi nikiwa mbunge pia mimi ni human being.
Unfiltered, inspiring, engaging.
right, good morning once again and welcome back. My name is Fred Indimuli. Time for us to take a look at the big headlines. The biggest, and I think this is going to be one of the biggest discussions today, is the one on the front page of the Daily Nation. Tanzania jobs ban hits Kenyans hard. And this could potentially lead to a trade war between Tanzania and its neighbors, Kenya, Uganda, and the rest. He said Dodoma's move to bar foreigners from select businesses in the country will affect thousands of Kenyans, with the Suluhu regime's sanction infuriating local traders. And Kenyan MPs who have now asked Nairobi to impose retaliatory measures. Here's a big story there, and it's on page 4. The Common Market Protocol passed in 2010 guarantees freedom of movement of people, goods and services, labor and capital within the East African bloc. Underlining it are principles entrenching equal treatment of the nationals of partner states. In principle, citizens of East Africa member states are allowed to cross borders to trade and offer professional and non-professional services. But Dodoma, that's the seat of the government in Tanzania, in a special supplement notice dated July 28th this year, outlaws foreigners from operating small businesses like salons, mobile money transfer services, phone repairs, and tour guiding. Now, Kenya lawmakers have asked President William Ruto's government to impose retaliatory sanctions, with the action by Samia Suluhu's administration sparking renewed trade tensions between the two neighboring countries. That's where we start off our discussion this morning. We're privileged to have in studio already Ngunjiri Wambugu, former MP in Nyeri Town. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
We are hoping to be joined by at least 2 other individuals as we continue with this discussion. Now, this potentially could have very serious ramifications, but the suggestion that Kenya should retaliate, do you think that should be the best way to go?
Thank you, Fred. I think, as I was reading this story as I was coming down, I asked myself, if I was in Tanzania, if I was a Tanzanian, would this be a good thing or a bad thing? Mm-hmm. Because you see, we sometimes get carried away in, so we are looking at this from a Kenyan perspective. And from a Kenyan perspective, we feel Tanzania is being unfair. But if you look at this from a Tanzanian perspective, if you're a Tanzanian and you're competing for small trade licenses with foreigners, it's the same thing we keep hearing here. You know, I every time you're driving down Ngong Road, you keep hearing comments about the people who are hawking stuff along Ngong Road not being Kenyans. And the people who are saying that are arguing that they should be Kenyans, that the people who are doing small businesses should be Kenyans. And you have to keep, when you're running a country, you have to keep asking what is in the best interest of your country, first and foremost. Even as you think about your neighbors and the whatever economic blocks you're part of. Because if you threaten the best interest of your citizens for the sake and the benefit of your neighbors, you're going to lose the legitimacy of leading your country. So when I think about what Suluhu's government is trying to do, from a Kenyan perspective, it's unfair. From a Tanzanian perspective, I think they're trying to protect their people. Remember, there's always been this argument that, especially when you come from Kenya and you're told that Kenya is a powerful economy, it's got educated human resource, we can very easily threaten a lot of our neighbors if everything is equal. So we are going to keep suffering from this. Remember Uganda, a couple of years back, Uganda starting to close down things around chicken and stuff. We're going to keep facing this, and it's one of the negatives of being a powerful economy. We will keep struggling with our own economy here as a country, as Kenya, but then we also have to remember that our neighbors look at us as more powerful than them. They're going to keep trying to protect themselves.
So are you saying that,
that
EAC and the treaties we've signed and the protocols and all these things remain a mirage because probably of the different sizes of economies that we are not in tandem? So it's too much of an ideal that we are not yet there.
We're not yet there, and we really will never get there, because as I said, ultimately, local national interests will always supersede regional interests. The interests of the local Tanzanians will always supersede any economic whatever we come up with.
Right.
And remember, Suluhu has politics to take care of as well.
Yes, the election is coming up in October.
She's got elections coming up. She doesn't want a situation where people are saying, umekubali watu watoke nje wakuja wachukue biashara zetu.
But it's the effect that Kenya adopting similar protectionist moves that I'm wondering, because that is a suggestion now, that if Tanzania is doing that, and there are about 40,000 Kenyans who live and work in Tanzania, most of them in these businesses that they now will no longer be able to work in. If Kenya was to adopt something similar, Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo, karibu sana. If Kenya was to adopt something similar, protectionism moves, how would it affect this region?
Thank you, Fred, and thank you, Honorable Mbugu. We are sharing the platform one more time after a long time.
Yes.
And I think it's sometimes good when you are out of parliament, you are able to meet us. Now, Fred, there is a principle called reciprocity. Mm-hmm. You reciprocate what another nation is doing. And in East Africa, we have Common Market Protocol document. In 1999, East African Treaty was formed. And these documents regulate how people trade, regulate how people move, inter-country movements, regulate how labor practices will be conducted in the East African region. It is very true, as Mheshimiwa has remarked, that you should protect your people. I mean, primarily why governments and leadership are set up in a certain community is so that they can protect that community. Now, in Kenya alone, before we go to Tanzania, we have regions that have minerals, heavy minerals. You talk about Kwale, you talk about Marsabit, you talk about Migori, Kakamega. There are deposits of minerals in such regions. The law recognizes that you must protect the local people and give them a certain percentage of those minerals. If you allow people from outside those counties to come in and benefit until they deplete even the little that was supposed to benefit the locals, then as a leadership you fail. So the same thing, Fred, I mean, Tanzania, except for border, it's just really part of our neighbors. And, Maasai, for example, come here, they, graze cows here, we graze cows in their boundary region. But how you are doing it as a country will either cement our relationship as a community of East Africa or will actually distance. And the way Tanzania is doing it, considering just the other day, we've had some commotion where they are returning Kenyans and they kind of call us kierere, like we are too intrusive. But we are not intrusive to annoy any country. It is who we are. That is how we express ourselves. That's how we move. So if Tanzania goes, and let me tell you, even in Kenya we have MSME, small scale traders, we do not allow that foreign experts come in to make sufurias here in, along Landis Road and where the Juakali artisans are making their sufurias. But at the same time, Fred, if trade is, a movement of goods cannot be curtailed by a country. I mean, if you don't have ngwashe or sweet potatoes for that matter in Tanzania, we have to definitely transport them. And we've seen that we have a lot of oranges, fruits, watermelon and all that coming from Tanzania. And yet we still we also grow them here. So I think the manner in which East African nations are going to curtail movement of goods and labor must be consulted before any one nation can go ahead to say, now we shall not allow people from Kenya for that matter. It should be, if there is a ban, it should involve all countries, whether Burundi, whether Rwanda, Tanzania,
And for the sake of clarity, it's not just affecting Kenya, it's all foreigners. From the entire East African region, they're not allowed to engage.
But Fred, remember, William Ruto opened up our borders. Yes. We are receiving all people from the whole Africa, at least for visitation. And soon, you've seen young people from Rwanda and Burundi. They're the only ones selling me groundnuts and bananas, and they are also walking all around selling you coffee. And I think...
Hence the question, what kind of effect would it have if Kenya was to adopt protectionist
I will tell you,
moves
this is it,
like
Fred. If I'm not good enough, you can't call me here. So And if these gentlemen from Kenya are going to be in the street and sell potatoes and groundnuts nicely without conning people, you know, because the biggest problem we've had in the labor market in the country is you are employed in a place and you actually want to own the business and you are an employee. And the way you are doing it, you don't even have the skill. So if you don't have Kenyans selling groundnuts or who are faithful and honest to their masters, I mean, it's good to open up the borders. Let more skill be brought in to challenge. And you know very well that when children are many in a home, you may look at it as a negativity. No, they challenge each other. So let us open our borders.
So Kenya shouldn't go the Tanzanian.
I think we should not block people who are coming in unless they're coming to steal and snatch from us.
Let's welcome Senator Joe Nyoto to this conversation. Senator of Murang'a, karibu sana, Senator. We are focusing on the headline Tanzania jobs ban hits Kenyans hard. And Tanzania has issued a new directive blocking foreigners from engaging in quite a number of small businesses, including repair of mobile phones and electronic devices, salon business, tour guiding, which is huge. The fact that we have Masai Mara and the Serengeti side by side, it means most of the tour guides who, especially now with the wildebeest migration from Masai Mara to Serengeti, most of them may find the need to cross the border into Tanzania. Members of Parliament, Senator, are suggesting that Kenya should adopt similar protectionist moves, that it would appear it's a full-blown trade war. If Tanzania is doing it, Kenya should do it. Do you think that's the way to go?
Well, thank you, Fred. I don't think the two wrongs can ever make a right. But Tanzania has been, although I know this particular ban does not affect Kenya alone, but basically, there's a lot in what is not said than what has been said. Basically, most of this hostility towards foreigners is directed at Kenyans, especially when you're talking about Tanzania. Because we have not seen Tanzania in the recent past treat nationals from other neighboring countries in the way it has, the way it has treated the Kenyans. And this is not just about President Samia. You remember there is one time during the regime of the late Magufuli when some animals from the Kenyan side were actually sold off as a punishment that because of our pastoralists grazing on the Tanzanian side, which was for me a very complicated matter, because going to Tanzania, you will not differentiate between a member of the Ma community from the Tanzanian side and that of from the Kenyan side. Basically, when you cross the border at Arusha, it's Maasai land almost all the way to Arusha, and these people speak the same language, they have the same way of life, they have the same economic activity, which is pastoralism, but then you see that kind of hostility. Only Tanzania has purportedly deported Kenyans from Tanzania. And deportation is something that, of course, we know is done by countries that, in quotes, are more developed than maybe our country. And so Tanzania generally has been very hostile, but to answer your question, I don't think these retaliatory measures should be taken in, I think it is something that needs to be approached with a lot of, caution, so that we do not breed even more hostility where there is none. And what we must guard against is, the citizenry of this country, of Kenya and of Tanzania, being hostile to one another, We can understand when government gets hostile, but we must be very careful, in my view, not to make the ordinary Tanzanian look at an ordinary Kenyan as not as a brother or a sister, but as a competitor or even an enemy. And Tanzania also has very many problems with the human rights abuse, and that's why the other day again we saw them purportedly deporting Martha Karua, Willy Mutunga, respected Kenyans, just because they had gone there to maybe give more support to is it Tundu Lissu? And so generally Tanzania has been hostile. And I am not a very good historian, but I'm also told that the original East African community, which I think was stronger than what we have now, the major country, the one country that started throwing spanner into the works was actually Tanzania, if the little history I know about it is right. And so I think Tanzania needs to work on its, on its thinking about brotherhood and sisterhood. And because with this kind of hostility, then the East African community, the ideas, the objectives, the goals may be difficult to achieve with one partner behaving the way Tanzania behaves. But I think we should be cautious. We should lead by example. Jesus said that if somebody slaps you on one side, you should give them the other cheek. Give them the other cheek. And it works, because if you slap me, then I do not retaliate. You slap the other cheek. Finally, you'll start thinking there's something wrong with you. But if I slap you back, I think it will beget even more trouble. So I think it's something that our diplomats should sit down and think hard about before we start, before we retaliate in the way that some maybe leaders are.
Talking about our diplomats and the person at the helm of the Foreign Affairs Ministry, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi is yet to comment on this issue. He has been criticized for being too slow in issuing statements, especially with regard to what he has mentioned, the fact that Kenyans were deported. It took days. The case of Mwabili Mwagodi, which was in the dailies early this week, is yet to comment on the same. And do you feel that probably the criticism is valid, that he's a bit too slow, even on this issue? This story that is, occupies a full page of the Daily Nation does not quote him anywhere.
No, it doesn't actually. And yes, he, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi has been defined as slow. His friends prefer to say he's cautious. And I think that has been his operating principle throughout his public life. He's a kind of guy who would rather not say something than say something and then find that he was wrong. So I don't expect that we are going to be seeing him responding to this soon. He's most probably going to wait to hear the noise out and find a central way to respond to this. I'm not sure that is what Kenyans expect. You see, we are very we move very fast. Just look at the fact that there's a full-page story on something that Tanzania, I think, passed, was it a couple of days ago?
Yes, 2 days ago.
Yes. So if you ask Musalia, he'll tell you he's most probably still reading through. He's still reading through this before, so that he can get a policy position and respond to it. And that's who he is. Sometimes it works well in diplomacy to wait and have all the facts on your fingertips before you speak. But when you sit from where we sit as a Kenyan, you most probably want him to tell us. Even before Parliament starts saying that we want to do territory, what is the reaction, or what is the executive reaction to this? Okay. Is it a conversation they're having with government? Have you reached out? Are you negotiating for the exemptions for Kenyans? That's the kind of thing she should be telling us. Then also just trying to explain to us, where is Tanzania coming from? For example, on the issue of tourism, as you argue, so if you have if you have a team of tourists who are transiting from Kenya to Tanzania, and you're the one who's managing them as a tour guide. So when you get to the Tanzanian border, do you hand them over to somebody else? What are they trying to force Kenyans to work in partnership with Tanzanians for some issues? What exactly? That's now the thing that Musalia should be getting, the information Musalia should get for us.
All right.
Where is Tanzania coming from with this particular argument? So that we are not just guessing. We're here trying to help them. We're trying to help the policy position. It's actually him who should be telling us these things. He should have gone into the... Go ahead.
And by the way, that should come from the executive and government leadership before you actually report it as media. Nonetheless, I mean, media will always be ahead, but you should actually, the media should be reporting what happened in the boardrooms about this topic, how Tanzania is trying to court Kenya and other regional countries to agree to a situation where, everyone can benefit from the tourism sector in terms of whatever comes to Kenya, you hand it over to us, and then also Tanzania will hand over to, Uganda or DRC Congo, so that the countries are all benefiting. It's not only Tanzania trying to come out, like they want to prevent others from enjoying, let's say, the tour benefit. So I think it is not leadership for Mudavadi to stay on the fence. It is not leadership. It's not proper governance. Yes. He ought to speak in time, even before it's actually reported on media.
On this issue of the CS in charge of foreign affairs, do you think his reaction is a bit wanting, or lack of reaction?
Well, Fred, I don't have a background in diplomacy, but Musalia Mudavadi, yes, I agree with those who say that he's a bit slow. And it is in everything, just in diplomacy and other things. He's a bit slow. By nature, I think, he doesn't rush to things. But I think, even as Honorable Wambugu Gujiri says that he's cautious, but he wants to read through what, but I know that in every ministry there are technocrats. You do not have to be the one, the CS in charge of foreign affairs doesn't have to be the one, doing the reading and everything. I think if he were to take briefs from, it's important, of course, yes, I agree, that you need to understand the matter before you offer your opinion about it. But I think with the technocrats at the ministry, I think this is something that the ministry should have, analyzed and been able to advise the CS. And he should, I think his response, he needs to work on his response. He needs to be real time, because that's the word today. He needs to be real time. Because sometimes, in Kiswahili they say chelewa chelewa utapata mwana si wako. So I think he needs to improve on his speed of action. But I don't judge him harshly. He's also, you cannot call Musalia Mudavadi a young man. So I think, but I think his response should be, I think there is some room for improvement.
Right.
Yeah.
And the jobs, this new directive outlaws foreigners in Tanzania operating small businesses like salons, mobile money transfer services, phone repairs, and tour guiding. And anyone found in violation of this faces fines of up to 10 million Tanzanian shillings, which is about 500,000 Kenyan shillings. So yes, there'll definitely be consequences. And some lawmakers in Kenya are even suggesting that President William Ruto's government should impose retaliatory sanctions on Tanzania. It is a big discussion there on the front page of the Daily Nation. Tanzania jobs ban hits Kenyans hard. This story is also on the front pages of the Citizen and Mwananchi papers in Tanzania this morning. It is a big discussion, and of course, businessmen there are a bit happy with that. All right, I want us to switch gears and talk about politics. I don't know if it's time for a break now. We could discuss issues around ODM and the Central Committee meeting that was held yesterday. ODM picking unity over division. It is part of the stories covered here at TV47. Let's have it.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
So you can, if you threaten us that you can leave ODM, you can leave. Okello is here.
That while members arrived here with different viewpoints on many issues within the party and the country, the committee has succeeded in brokering an unbreakable unity of purpose.
Critics say the recent fallout due to a statement made by Sifuna that the MOU between the party and ODM is dead may have caused damage to the future of the party.
Whichever way, it's going to lose a plank. The plank to be lost could be the progressives, people like Caleb Amisi, Babu Owino, Edwin Sifuna, who are resonating with Kenyans.
With contention on the MOU between ODM and UDA still rife, ODM and UDA, the 7 resolution agenda read, will form a technical committee to oversee the implementation of not just the MOU, but the NATCO report. ODM has also resolved to support the ongoing efforts to convene an intergenerational dialogue seen as a solution to youth unrest against the Ruto administration. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Yes, it's also featured on the front page of the Star newspaper. Says Sifuna cornered as Raila and Top Guns rally behind Ruto. It has been a debate that's been ongoing. The fact that it would appear there was a lot of confusion within the second biggest party in parliamentary numbers, ODM, and its choice to work with the William Ruto administration. Now we're seeing some semblance, if I may call it that, of unity. But how consequential is this unity, Bwana, because all this played out in public?
Yes.
Now, it's interesting that Sifuna, as a spokesperson of the party, was the same one to come out and read that statement. But do you think that this is just cosmetic and that the cracks are still deep within Raila Odinga's party?
I think any political party is going to have internal divisions. I think one of the things you have to admire about ODM is its capacity to, I don't want to use the word discipline. I mean, just the fact that Sifuna is the one who read that statement. And then you remember, was it last week or a couple of days ago, he had this very powerful interview and he went gung-ho on very many things against the government. And then yesterday he had to stand there and read a statement. that said that his party is going to continue supporting this particular government. And this is not the first time that this has happened to Sifuna. If you remember when they were doing this, we've never known whether it was a handshake that was being signed at KICC. Sifuna had initially been very against that. Then he ended up being the one who actually went and read the memorandum of understanding. And he had to keep explaining that what I'm reading is a party position. What I'm reading is a party position. So you have to give it to ODM for its capacity to have its members move out and hold individual positions, fight in public, then somehow come out and look like they have agreed and they're presenting a unified front. They've done it several times, and I think it's also one of the things that keeps the dynamic moving. Whether this is going to last has always been the question. Yesterday, Sifuna had one of two options. Either and I think that is what most probably happened during that meeting. Either he was going to read that statement, or he was going to lose his position as Secretary General of the party. And that capacity and the fact that he didn't have the courage to go beyond where he had gone, it tells you there's still somewhere where the interests of the party are still more powerful for him than his own individual interest. That there's still something the party gives him, he's not able to get out on his own. And he has to keep, because that's what every politician does. Every politician has to keep asking and trying to align their own personal interests to the party interests, to community interests. Sifuna, we had a situation where members of the Luhya community had started defending him, saying, oh, he's been attacked because he's a Luhya in ODM. So you expected that he was going to walk away and either claim the Luhya card, play the Luhya card, or just play the Nairobi card. Yeah, but the fact that he went back and read this statement tells you, when all is said and done, he's still better off as Secretary General of ODM than anything else. And that, as you read everything else they said, because there's nothing new that the party has said. What the party said is what they've always said, as a party. Yes. That we are in government with the Kenya Kwanza until 2027. Yeah. But Sifuna had come out and said, Sifuna started becoming exciting, because he was starting to say, we are not in this government. Yes. You see, so people are like, oh, there's a possibility that this, in fact, we even started seeing polls and suggestions that Raila could walk away, could walk out. And I can only imagine the amount of pressure that even Raila has had over the last couple of weeks from within his relationship with government. Can you tell us? I saw some members of the Kenya Kwanza administration, some politicians already started talking and saying, no, we don't like what is going on. You guys are having your cake and eating it. You want to do that. So this thing that happened yesterday was, one, to assure the Kenya Kwanza administration, whatever we agreed is still in force. Two, to send a message, a warning message out, that if we can do this with Sifuna, there's nobody else who we cannot do this with.
Yet Sifuna is just one example of the dissenting voices that we've seen in ODM, and that probably is the newest thing we've had, because ODM right now I think is the oldest party over the last 3 or 4 decades that we can still say is a big party. Do you agree that even the fact that we had those dissenting voices and we now can point names like Caleb Amisi, Babu Owino, and of course Edwin Sifuna, that in itself says a lot about ODM going forward?
Fred, first and foremost, Sifuna is a politician, a lawyer, of course, but he is a politician. And despite the eloquence, he's got certain steps he must follow within the ODM rank. Having said that, so what is ODM doing? To be very honest with everybody, I think that we have had a very strong party called ODM, but where it is today, as we speak this Wednesday morning, there are more theatrics going on within the ODM than any substance being brought out by anybody, including the Secretary General. Kenya is full of talented young people. Kenya is full of intelligent human beings. I mean, we cannot say there are 2 intelligent people or 3 or 4 or 1 million. Kenya has over now 50 million people, and I can comfortably, in my own private statistics, say out of those, probably 1 million may be having challenges, but many Kenyans are intelligent and you cannot carry their intelligence on their behalf. What is happening in ODM, I think it's just public stance at the moment, because now I was just looking at the broad-based government 9 points. And just to mention about 3, ethnic and regional balance. This is what is hurting Kenyans. There is, in fact, I am not interested in becoming president. I am not interested in challenging Honorable Wambugo or Nyutu. I don't want to be senator. I don't want to be MP. I mean, nothing wrong, but my own personal preferences. But what do I want? I want a government that works. So when you come out and read a statement, sorry, that says, we want a government that considers ethnic and regional balances. And then downwards, when you move there, they talk about a reform-oriented cabinet. And there are many, but I picked about 2. And then you look at conflict mediation and the unity mechanisms. And of course, the last one then is checks and balances for me. And then when the public comes up and says we want to ensure that the government is put to task on checks and balances, how is it operating? How is it using our taxes? How is it leading the people? And then people are being abducted. And then people are being killed. So it does not matter what ODM will come and do as a presser. For me, what would matter is that you literally reject that we cannot even allow our members to be in cabinet until we are reassured there is no abduction. Let's first, because you see, this is how governments work. You actually kind of do a blackmail. Like you say, if you stop abducting people, we will give you 4 of our ODM people to be in cabinet. So that we support a justified, a just government. Not that we will, you see that there's an opening and you run into the cabinet and then you're eating yourself, it is you who is benefiting. And then when you realize actually there is no money for the education sector, and you say it the way you know it, and then the Kenya Kwanza brothers are like, what's wrong with you? How can you embarrass us like that? So in my view, ODM is actually headed the wrong direction. Despite the coming out to say we will work with the government, we will be with you, those are all stands. They are just PR gimmicks so that we do not see the other side. So I believe that Kenya Kwanza actually and ODM coming together, and then ODM coming, ODM is under a lot of pressure, by the way. They've ever stood for human rights, and now they have been caught between a rock and
that's exactly what Sifuna, the concerns Sifuna was raising, that issues that were provided for in the MOU that they signed, this administration has not done anything. They discussed it yesterday, and according to sources, they said that there were concerns raised about the slow implementation of some of those agreements. The NADCO report was also mentioned there, and they said that they'll push for its implementation in full. But we had the former deputy president claim that the president is not committed on issues around the NADCO. The fact that this MOU still remains hanging. He could also not be very committed towards this. Do you understand, or do you feel that that statement yesterday by ODM could change anything in the workings of this administration, in as far as the implementation of NADCO and that MOU?
First of all, Fred, I was able to watch the full show that Edwin Sifuna made in a particular media house last week. And it was a very long show, and I think so many things came out. But one thing that stood out during that particular interview was that Sifuna was very clear that why in the first place they entered into this arrangement, ODM entered into this arrangement with Kenya Kwanza government, specifically President Ruto, was the need after the revolution of last year by Gen Zs, was the need to sustain, in the words of Edwin Sifuna, a democratic government and sustenance of life. I may not remember the exact words. Sustenance of life and the sustenance of a democratically elected government. And according to Sifuna, and why he thought that the MOU is dead, the sustenance of the state, actually he called it the state, the sustenance of the state is there, which was the major stake of President Ruto, which was the major interest of President Ruto, to see to it that the sustenance of state happened, because of course it was under threat. But then sustenance of life has not been there, because since then so many, especially young people, have been killed by the police. And so I think for me it's a question of whether ODM still wants to stand by its ideology. And I think that is what Wakili Nyaribo is pointing at. That ODM is known to be the party, or its ideology is known as that of fighting for human rights. And that is why early last year they had a protest against a high cost of living in Kenya. Now, the most basic human right is the right to life, which Kenya Kwanza, of course, has violated in a big way. And so, I think what we would ask of ODM is, do you want to exchange the rights of Kenyans with the goodies you're getting from this government? Because let us be realistic. Why ODM finds it so hard to exit from this particular arrangement, even with violation, with the violation of the arrangement that they had, I mean the conditions for the arrangement, I mean the 10-point agenda, is because of the goodies that ODM continues reaping from this particular arrangement. So the question then becomes, are we ready, or as ODM, is ODM ready to exchange, its ideology, its legacy with the benefits? And the benefit, when I talk about benefits, you will listen to ODM legislators especially, and all they tell you is, no, with this arrangement we are getting projects, we are getting roads, we are getting water, we are getting, and of course the positions. Like if I tell you about the Senate where I come from, I mean where I mean all the chairmanship positions that are taken from, from those of us who come from the mountain were given to ODM. I mean, look at these CSs that they have, but basically the goodies that they continue receiving. So I think ODM should be clear on what their priority is. The other thing I want to say is that what is reported may not be the entire story. Because of course, I don't think this particular meeting of the Central Management Committee was held, in public. It is only what was reported that we can discuss here. But I know that there is a lot of discontent in ODM, like in every other part of the country. I mean, every other, party and membership of any party, about the many things that continue to go wrong with this government. So I don't think that Sifuna, by just reading that statement, that is what he believes in. But of course, and I think it's also strategic. I mean, how would ODM benefit, if we come back to goodies, by exiting from this arrangement? There is no election now. But I can assure you that ODM will not be with Kenya Kwanza when we go for elections in 2027. So I think it's convenient for them to continue enjoying the benefits that they're enjoying for now. But I think inside of them, and I think what they agreed there is that, of course, there's a breach of this agreement, and so I think they have decided to do other things, and I expect Sifuna to continue hitting the government. I think with the permission of BAMBA and the Central Management Committee, because the position of ODM, I think at the end of it all will be there for everybody to see. I don't think that ODM will support President Ruto's re-election in 2027, regardless. But they want to continue being there because, like I've said so many times, at the risk of repetition, there are benefits coming from that. And this is good. This was a good statement made. This was comforting to President Ruto and his government. They were very worried because, like,
was that the biggest dividend coming from there, that President William Ruto today sits with relief that is a party decision by ODM?
Yes, of course. This statement was issued for President Ruto. I mean, so that at least he can have some comfort. But I can tell you, some people think they are too smart for everybody, and they think that they can, they're the masters in the game. But of course, one day somebody meets their match. This was a statement made for President Ruto because, of course, there was a lot of discomfort. And why? Because if ODM today want to get out of this arrangement, then impeaching President Ruto would become a reality. And so I think President Ruto was very worried with Edwin Sifuna's statements. But I think what Sifuna says is what Baba believes.
So Mheshimiwa, I mean, I don't know, numbers. Why is ODM called the strongest party and the largest party, they say, in Africa? I don't know. Why can't they walk out? If they walk out, they have the numbers. If they walk out and partner with other opposition leaders, they still will have the numbers. And opposition leaders have clearly said, we don't want to necessarily kick out this president now. He will go in 2027. This is what they are saying, opposition. So why not join forces? And then at least right now maintain checks and balances so that at least the government cannot go wrong. I mean, the government will be in power anyway. Even if you talk about impeachment, it will be a legal process. It will be a lawful process. So why then do you say you have numbers, you supervise abuse of human rights, actually killings for that matter, and you still say you have the numbers? Is it the numbers you have or just the power? Is it really the numbers and the power or the perception? So that's why I was saying that this is a stunt. I mean, now I hear Mheshimiwa is saying it was a statement specifically to assuage the president. I don't think so. I think that they were making that statement because they are also threatened. Because you saw over the weekend how several people, especially several politicians from Kenya Kwanza, were saying, we never signed for this. So is it true that ODM is still the largest party, the strongest party, but willing to supervise abuse of human rights?
All right. There are those who argue that Baba Raila Odinga is being disingenuous in this, that there's obvious breach of the MOU and provisions of the MOU. Then what reason does he have to stay on with this arrangement?
I think we have to be realistic. Political parties are formed to pursue power, right? And they're in school you're taught that a political party is supposed to pursue forming of government or be in opposition, but then they also want to be able to influence government policy. ODM has perfected the art of being able to do that without actually ever winning the presidency, right? From the day they were established. From 2005, for the 20 years they've been in operation, they've perfected the art of being able to implement, to affect policy. But then they've also affected the art of being able to benefit from every respective government that they've been in. Remember, ODM was formed by people who walked out of Kibaki's government in 2005, right? Went into an election against him in 2007, formed a coalition government with him thereafter, walked into an election in 2013, lost, formed a coalition with Uhuru in a couple of years later, and that's how they have perfected the art of operation. So when you look at the history of ODM, you have to accept that ODM is a very pragmatic, realistic party. We have the theories of what they stand for, and then we have also the history of actually how they operate. And sometimes the theory of what they stand for and the history of how they operate are in conflict. Because yes, it's a mass movement, it's a social democratic party, but then it's the same party that is able to partner with government, and not just with the Ruto government. They've done it with the Kibaki government and with the Uhuru government in a way that enables them to survive and to be relevant and to stay around. Because like yesterday when you listen to Sifuna, as much as I might want to agree with Senator Nyutu and Ishmael, yes, they were speaking, they were trying to mollify the president, they were also trying to mollify their supporters. But the reality is, they have bought another 6 months, right? Or another 3 months before they get into another crisis of people, because they have now made everybody say, oh, okay. So we are going to be here debating about whether what Sifuna said before is his position or what he said yesterday. And we're going to wait for Sifuna for the next 2 months or 3 months to see whether he's going to
Do you think he'll stick to what he read yesterday, or
he has to? Because if he doesn't, you see what was happening, and this is how ODM. And I've had experience of working in ODM for a year and something in 2012. This is what ODM does. Before they take a position, it's a free for all. You can go and say whatever you want. The minute the party takes, and that is why you'll notice that a lot of the time, they take a while to take a party position. And it's been argued that sometimes Raila is just trying to listen to the various positions as he also negotiates. Because you see, as noises were going on, government was getting scared, right? It becomes easier for him to reach out and say, you know, you guys haven't formed, there's something you haven't fulfilled that we have agreed. Once whatever it is that, it might be things that we don't even know. It might even have absolutely no political connotation to what it is that he's looking for. Once whatever it is that is required is fulfilled, he then now reins everything and creates a unified position. And once that position is created, very rarely do you ever see ODM people going back against a position that the party has taken. So they'll make noise, then come. Okay. And they'll go 6 months, then make noise again, then come back. In the meanwhile, the party continues to be relevant. It continues to benefit from this government, and the next election gets closer. Okay. So as the next election gets closer, and we are all here waiting to see, will they leave government? Will they stay within government? They are surviving. Benefit. Okay. They are surviving. The people who are in government, the ministers they have in government, are shaping policy, are benefiting, helping the party benefit, because we can't really be so naive as to say that ODM is not benefiting from the individuals who are in this government. They are benefiting. And that is keeping them going until the next election. Now, when we get to the next election, they will decide whether it is practical to stay with Ruto, or they'll do what some other people are expecting them to leave. But ODM will always make a decision based on what is in their best interests as a party.
Now, there's a very pragmatic analysis. I believe it is very honest and correct. And the tragedy with this, then, is that ODM can actually engage you so that you don't see the bigger picture. Like, ODM can just engage you for 3 months so that we near the elections, and then again they probably change position so that now they fit that particular occasion. That is actually undemocratic, because allowing people to speak but never grant them their final say, then it means you are not democratic. I mean, why people complained when ODM teamed up with Kenya Kwanza, for example, from where I come from, we were shocked that there is nobody in Kisii who would be considered for, if not minister, then a principal secretary position. And those were positions given to ODM. So what Honorable Wambugu is actually now revealing, because he has sat in ODM, is when you are sitting, and I think
it was 10 years ago.
Or he says 10 years ago, but I think it's characteristic of what Raila is actually doing. He will let you be how you want. You can say what you want to say. Then when he goes back, he sits with his principal and says, you know, don't ignore them. Don't mind them. Let's go ahead. So that is not right. That is not democracy. Democracy means you people of Kisii have voted for me. You people of Coast always voted for me. We didn't succeed. Now the cake is back with us. I want to, because we are many, I want to at least let you have, okay, just have 2 or have 1.5 or have whatever. But you cannot just ignore people. And I'm not talking about Kisii because I come from there, Fred. There are many other regions that complained that once ODM gets this thing, it goes to Raila family. I mean, as bad as it feels, when you look at the pragmatic position Wambugu has alluded to, then you actually realize that yes, whenever ODM gets that position, it goes to the very close people, and particularly the Luo Nyanza. And that is where people find it difficult to stick with then ODM all through. And Sifuna, Fred, is finding it extremely difficult. He will not tell you this. He's a talented guy. He's got enough stamina, you know, mentally, physically. He's still fighting it. But at the end, I can tell you that if Sifuna will not stand behind Raila, he will definitely go.
All right. Meanwhile, as that continues happening, ODM now at least as far as the party position is concerned, they have issued clarity on what their working arrangement with the administration of William Ruto is, and it is that they are going to stay with him, even as they look at the MOU and other things. As we continue discussing politics and politics of parties, there's something happening, and curiously, it's been happening a lot in Murang'a, that for the second time, yesterday, police blocked leaders allied to the former deputy president from that on Sunday. It happened on Sunday that they were blocked from accessing some places there. This is politics of Mount Kenya. It is part of the stories covered here at TV47. Before we give Senator an opportunity to tell us exactly why this happened, let's watch that story.
Polisi ndio wanafanya hivi. Fanya hivi. Polisi ndio wanafanya hivi.
Kwa nini hakuna njia? Nataka twende wapi? Shida ni gani? Kwa nini? Kwa nini tusipite? Kama gari hazipiti basi tunapita.
Tupitani miguu basi.
Twendeni. Hakuna. Piga ni sasa.
Hawata pige. Hebu chukua nini? Hawata pige.
Definitely a loud confrontation between leaders and the police there. I can see a very agitated Senator Nyuto there having an exchange with the police, and because of the loud voices, probably many did not understand what exactly was happening there. What was the issue?
Before I get to that, kindly allow me to make 1 or 2 points about the debate that you are concluding, because Wakili Nyaribo intervened before I had finished making my submissions. I've listened to Honorable Wambugu saying that ODM has been very pragmatic, and it is true that ODM especially, and Raila Odinga in particular, has gotten into many handshakes before this one. But I can assure Honorable Wambugu that with this time round, it was with the wrong number. It may not work the way the other handshakes have worked before. Yes, like Wambugu has said, it has helped the survival of ODM, but with this one, this was the wrong number, and for several reasons. One is the blatant violation of human rights. Of course, violation of human rights was not invented by President Ruto. This is something that has been there. I would be blind and of course not realistic to say that there was no violation of human rights before. But then the scale at which human rights have been violated under this particular regime is, is too high. I mean, this has dented the image of Raila Amolo Odinga, whichever way you look at it. We are now being told that free basic education is now actually just about to be taken away from us. Something that was given by President Kibaki those many years ago. Remember, we have been told that before we have been told that capitation, especially in secondary schools, has been revised from 22,000 to 16,000 Kenya shillings. I mean, that the value, we must ask ourselves, the value of 22,000 Kenya shillings in 2018 when Kibaki brought in these. You are telling us you have reduced it? I mean, with the inflation and everything, we should be talking about adding the same. And this is the government that the Raila Amolo Odinga is, according to Honorable Wambugu, is working with pragmatically for survival. So I tell you, this was the wrong number and they may not survive. I also want to differ with Honorable Wambugu when he says that there can be a lot of noise in ODM, but once a party position is taken, then that's it, and nobody, departs from that. I don't think that is true. I mean, the same Sifuna read the resolutions, or the agreement, the content of the agreement when they made this agreement. Was it last year? No, this early this year. But he has departed from that. So I don't think that now going forward that Sifuna will not be airing his views. He will just be, closed into the position that ODM took yesterday. No. I don't think that is what he's going to continue obtaining. And I think I admire Wakili Nyaribo because he's not a Kikuyu. When he talked about Kisii, had it been me saying Kikuyus have been shortchanged, then it becomes tribalism. So you are lucky, Wakili, that you do not come from Mount Kenya, because Mount Kenya, when you talk about your area, your people, then you are a tribalist, but other communities are allowed to talk about tribalism. But he said something that is very true, that ODM, Raila Amolo Odinga, anytime he gets an opportunity to get into government, and their positions to be given, they basically go to Luo Nyanza. And by the way, when Honorable Ambogo says that this has been, ODM has been pragmatic, do you know why Raila Amolo Odinga lost?
Cabinet secretaries
not from... Raila Amolo Odinga lost. They had made their submissions about it. Raila Amolo Odinga lost in the last elections by a margin of 200,000 votes. Those are the votes that Wetangula took away from him. Why did this happen? Because he fired Wetangula as minority leader in the last Senate and instead brought in James Orengo. I don't see any pragmatism in that particular one. And so I don't think there's a lot of, thinking and a lot of, political maneuvers and what have you. I think everybody makes mistakes just like any others. But coming to a Sunday, because of course my image is there. I was there. We went to a church. By the time we were finishing the church service, already we had information because we wanted to go and address, this is in Kigumo constituency, Murang'a County, which I represent as senator. We were to address a rally, a public rally, in the adjacent town called Gonda, not town actually, a small center, trading center called Gonda, in Kenyona Ward, Kigumo constituency of Murang'a County. What the police did, because we had made announcements the previous day, what the police did when they saw our sound vehicle, trying now to bring people together, awaiting us to get out of the church to address the crowds. What the police did, one, they tear-gassed everybody, women, children, old men, everybody, and shops were closed in that particular center before we got out of church. Then we get out of church, the police with goons, police with the assistance of goons. Or should I say goons with the assistance of the police? I don't know who was assisting who. Then, of course, blocked us from accessing the trading center. Told us you must follow these other ways. So we were asking them, why would you dictate which particular route we are going to follow? I mean, we are in a free country. We are not criminals. Because if we were, then they would have arrested us even before this. Why? And then in that particular altercation that we have seen, when we were trying to ask the police why that was happening, they started tear-gassing us. But the saddest thing was not even tear gas. The police shot at our vehicles, and that is something that is in public domain. Not once, not twice, and they were aiming at us. And that is something that is there. Everybody saw those vehicles at IPOA on Monday, and the police basically wanted to kill us. Okay. It was an attempt at assassination. We were only the grace of God saved us. And then the police officers, I saw them with stones, breaking, our cars' windows, and others shooting at us. And all this because we support Rigathi Gachagua and we support the cause. It's not actually about Rigathi Gachagua. It's about violation of human rights. Because in that particular ward, Kenyona, 2 young men, have been killed by the police. And, it lasts about 1.5 months and buried there. And so we just because we are saying that we refuse to be intimidated by William Ruto, that we will not allow him to continue violating human rights, that we will not allow his police to continue killing people, to continue, abducting people.
All right, sir.
They, according to them, we were supposed to be punished by death through police bullets, through goons, and this is something that I think is serious, and people need to address this.
Yes, it's 2 years to election, and this could be seen as just another probably misuse of the security agencies by the state to silence dissent. Do you agree that that is where it's gotten, and probably that is to be expected going forward for the next 2 years?
I think for me the irony of this, and it's first, let me first go on record that whatever happened in Muranga should not have happened. I think everybody has a right to express themselves, of course within limit, wherever they want, and they can go wherever they want to do it. I think for me the irony of this was the elected members who are in that particular environment was Munyoro, Honorable Munyoro, Honorable Methu, and Honorable Nyutu. They're the ones I saw. Now, what we seem to forget is that all of them are UDA MPs. This is a UDA government. This is happening within them, and I know Honorable Nyutu will explain that they're being attacked because they support Rigathi Gachagua. But for me, a much more fundamental question is, these are members of parliament of the ruling party who are being tear-gassed by government. What exactly is going on within UDA? And I was just thinking, as you were speaking, I was just thinking about that based on where we just come from, on the issue of ODM. And sometimes you want to ask if ODM was in government. Do we imagine there would be tear gas in ODM members of parliament? You see, and part of the challenge we have is a situation where we have this division that has happened within the ruling party. And that division is being pursued with a lot of viciousness and a lot of aggression by both sides. The guys who are within UDA who are fighting government are fighting it with a lot of aggression, a lot of viciousness. Government is fighting back at them with the same aggression, the same viciousness. And sometimes when you don't belong to any of those, you want to just ask yourself exactly what is going on here. What now we're in a situation where a lot of the violence that we are seeing is happening within a structure that we expect should all be working together to help this government perform. So I have listened to Senator Nyutu, and I hope that we will see this case being pursued through the law. We will see the people who actually did what happened. We will want to hear exactly how did we get here. Why were gunshots? I saw pictures of vehicles with what looked like gunshot with bullets, bullet holes. I think for most Kenyans who don't belong to the government and who don't belong to UDA, they want to understand what exactly is going on within the party and within the government. And how do we get to this point? We hear Senator Nyutu say there were attempts to assassinate them. And it would be very bad if we've reached a point where government is trying to assassinate its own members of parliament. This is something we need to get to the bottom of. And I saw yesterday they went, I think, to IPOA. And I really, really would want media and Kenyans to keep their eye on that particular case so that we get to the bottom of it. And even as I hand over this space, there's just one thing I want to clarify that Senator Nyutu took us back to, about this, whether this is a practical handshake that Raila has done with Ruto vis-a-vis the other ones. If you remember in 2007 when Raila did a handshake with Kibaki, it came from ODM people having been killed. I mean, bodies were piled in mortuaries. Nobody expected Raila would survive that handshake. The amount of betrayal the general ODM person felt, that Raila had gone and shaken hands with the president who had actually led a government that had killed a lot of its membership. Bodies were lying all over the place, burials were being done everywhere. Nobody expected Raila was going to survive that one. He did. So I think I'm not sure whether he's going to survive this one. But the history has been very interesting with Raila. He has gotten into handshakes with people that nobody expected he was going to survive politically with. When he did a handshake with Uhuru in 2019, he had just come from very violent demonstrations. He had come from swearing himself in as the people's president. People like Meguna never survived. They've never recovered from what they feel was an acute betrayal. But Raila is still around. So he's not a guy to write off just yet, in terms of how his pragmatism has kept both him and his party moving. And parties are not democratic. Democracy is important for a country, but parties are not operated as democracy. I mean, and part of the reason why I struggle to see what is happening, when we were in government in Jubilee last time, we had the same problem, where we had, within Jubilee, we had people who got out of government and started fighting government. Now it's happening with UDA, and although, of course, at our time, I don't remember as tear gas in our members, but hey.
It's nothing new, Wakili, the fact that the state will always try and protect its position. But as we talk about the parties, the two big parties, ODM and now UDA, which is the biggest party in terms of parliamentary strength, do you think that this is something new? The fact that within the same party, the dissenting voices are actually having a properly rough time?
Yes, just holding it there, Fred. What we are expecting from Raila Odinga, he will definitely survive. He has survived. Even now he's surviving that arrangement. What we are expecting from him is to please protect Kenyan citizens. Go to Kenya Kwanza arrangement with your honest philosophy that democracy must thrive and abductions must stop, killings must stop. Anything less than that, whether he survives it, we'll write a bad history about him. Now, about Mheshimiwa Nyutu being stopped on the way, I think, to worship, I don't know where they were headed to. I have two views. One, Kenyans should stop sneering, just sneering and chest thumping and trying to stand over your government so that it can see you. That, in my humble view, should be stopped. I mean, we see this even during Maandamano. We see that people are really trying to demonstrate that we are powerful. Of course, under democracy, citizens are more powerful than their own government because they are the ones who have appointed the government. But in day-to-day administrative activity, we must respect the uniform to the extent that they are there to help keep law and order. But now, Fred, having said that, finding my colleague Ndegwa, Wakili Ndegwa, and Nyutu or Wambugu for that matter, it can be anybody, proceeding to maybe a church or meet people, greet them, and then you find that the government that should be enhancing democracy and allowing people to have free movement is actually stopping them. And from what we saw on the clips, a police officer is insisting, hakuna mutu anapita hapa. Now, by the way, if a police says, hakuna mutu anapita hapa, the negotiation should be, what is the issue? Is there danger ahead, or what is the issue? Or we are not supposed to go. So, and you realize politics, I mean, they know, Kina Nyutu know where they were going. And the police officers are probably informed. And when you are going to reach that destination, you want to go there and sneer at the government and show that you have the might. And this, in my humble view, these are very small aspects of governance, where you want to show who can speak better, who has better oratory skills, who can attract 1 million people or 10,000 people or 1,000 people. And when a whole government reduces itself to those fights, then you lose it all. Because if you allow politicians to go and address the people, because that's what they should be doing. What Kenya Kwanza can do is, the UDA particularly, is to recall, is to call their national delegates and say, we don't want Nyutu from tomorrow or from today. They did that to our sister Gloria Uruoba. They removed her just quickly. So they should be able, if the Kenya Kwanza and the UDA particularly feels their power, they should call for a meeting and say, after all, you have gone to DCP, you are supporting DCP policies, so what we don't want is you again to represent UDA. And now we have IBC, Fred. Then the people can decide to recall whichever MP they want to recall. But this aspect, for being reasonable and logical, this aspect of you want to stand before a gun and fight the gun and say you can do nothing to me, It sounds fashionable when you want some bit of following, but it actually beats the very logic of the fact that the guy you are trying to mop up and insult or whatever is still a human being behind that gun. So the best for me is government cannot stop people going around, free movement in the country. But again, I want to advise the supporters of politicians that you must be concerned that you need to be there tomorrow so that you can actually keep the government in check. So let us avoid this aspect of you want to go and beat police and show them they are mini people, not people really. No. Let us avoid that. And then let the political parties whip their members. You have a right to recall members of parliament, or you have a right to discipline them. Why is UDA not disciplining their errant members?
All right. And you have exactly 7 minutes, so about 2 minutes and a half, about 2 minutes, 15 seconds for your final comments. Senator.
Thank you. But you see, I have the disadvantage of my two brothers here, saying things that I am feeling tempted.
You can use your 2 minutes.
Very quickly. Yeah. When Honorable Wambugu says that there is aggression from both sides, those that support government and those who do not, I agree with him to that extent. But then there is a difference between our side and that of government. That government has the instruments of violence, the instruments of terror. We do not have any instruments. So that is a difference. Number two, allow me, when Wambugu says that in 2007, Raila survived while his people are being killed, I think I want to remind Honorable Wambugu that it was different. Raila entered into that particular arrangement at that time to stop killings. This time round, he is in an arrangement with a regime that is perpetuating killings. And that is the difference for me. That time, he survived because it was aimed at stopping killings, a solution. But now, he is supporting a regime that is continuing to kill Kenyans. I think for me that is a difference. And he says that you can't write off Raila. I never did that. I only said that this particular arrangement has redented his image. I did not write him off. Of course, I cannot be that ignorant or that amateurish to think that you can write off Raila Amolo Odinga, but he is clearly dented. I don't understand what my brother Nyaribo means by saying that people should respect the uniform. I mean, we did not confront the police. We just wanted to ask them why they were, preventing our free movement, why they were preventing us from accessing people. I mean, we did not confront them. They were wearing masks. If we were people who were not self-controlled, we would have been tempted to remove masks from them, knowing that very well that there's a court order to that effect. Because when somebody is hooded, masked, you do not know whom you are dealing with. And so we didn't actually confront them in any way. We were just asking why. And if you replay that clip, you'll see, we ask, what have we done
actually playing
to warrant this? What have we done to warrant this? And so we did not, and we were not there, Wakili, to sneer at government. We were just there, maybe we would have told the people what the wrongs that the government is doing. Now, this issue of that, we should be removed from UDA, because that is what Gojiru Wambugu also was insinuating, that we should be removed from UDA. Wakili has put it very well. Why would I leave UDA?
Yeah, you should belong to one
just
party.
A minute. Why would I leave UDA? I've not joined another party. I'm still in UDA. And why would I leave? Who is this to tell me to leave UDA? Okay. Because William Ruto is the party leader of UDA. Does he have the moral authority to tell me to leave UDA? Knowing very well that he differed with President Uhuru for 4 years. He was challenged to quit the position of deputy government, which he didn't. Why would he have any moral authority to tell me to quit just because I'm disagreeing with him? And then we are not disagreeing with UDA as a party. We are opposed to the policies that the government is making. And don't forget that this government is not formed only by UDA. It is now, you cannot even tell which party is running this government. There is ODM in there. There is all the other parties, the Kenya Kwanza parties. So why would I quit UDA just because I don't agree with the party? Let me finish, please.
I only have 3 minutes.
We are learning from the best. President Ruto. He has no moral authority to initiate my removal. And we also dare them to remove us. They fear us. If they remove us, we run on DCP, and DCP will get fresh members of parliament. So it is for their own benefit that they continue retaining us, but they have no moral authority to ask us to leave UDA if they never left the parties they belonged to when they were fighting government while still benefiting from government.
Thank you, Senator. A minute.
Just a minute. I think first and foremost for me, I would support that position of I think Senator Nyutu has been a bit mischievous. Ruto never left Jubilee, not until the end of he never left. One of the things that Senator Nyutu said at the beginning of this interview was that they are followers of Gachagua. Gachagua has left UDA, he's gone to DCP, right? And DCP is not part of the Kenya Kwanza administration. It's not part of the parties that make the Kenya Kwanza administration. So there's already a discrepancy there. Whether or not they will leave, or they'll be kicked out, or they'll stay and continue entertaining us with the fights within them, that's entirely up to them. But I think it's also going to be important for us to keep saying that, yes, you guys are all in government. Why are you fighting? Why can't you go and have a central
management committee?
Yes, why can't you guys go and sit and have a central management committee meeting like ODM does and sit and agree and iron out your differences? And it's also important to note that aggression is not just about instruments. Aggression, especially in politics, the most dangerous aggression is inciting and using your word of mouth. By the time the instruments come into play, this country has, the few times that this country has gone to, has led into bloodshed, we didn't start with instruments. We started with word of mouth that then led us to actually a place where people are picking up farm implements and using them as instruments. So aggression is not just official instruments within the hands of the police. Finally, I think for me, I think there needs to be a stepping back. As you said, it's 2 years, and 2 years is a long time. I keep telling people that just a year is a very long time. At a time like now, Gachagua was deputy president 1 year ago, with absolutely nowhere in the periphery of an impeachment. 1 year later, he's not. So 2 years is a very, very long time. When thinking, and we are just about to get into August, and we'll have 2 full 24 months. Even as we make noises about, even as politicians continue with their competitions and trying to make sure they stay relevant, I think there needs to be a concerted effort by some forces to ensure that we are getting the services we require before we go to the next election, whether to remove this government or to keep it.
Thank you. Finally, just a minute. Yeah.
The difference between William Ruto, for example, and the leaders of the opposition, as I see it, and this is advice to the opposition actually, is William is strategic, opposition is populist. And this is where the president is likely to beat the opposition to win an election that the masses did not want him to win. Lastly, I think I am already reciting, I'm invoking the law when I say political parties should mop up their supporters and also invoke the law to recall members who are not loyal to their parties. This is just the law, by the way, Political Parties Act. If you are not supporting the policy of the party, then you walk out. And then there's this large problem, Fred, of Kenya competing backwards. I mean, if Ruto did not do it right, does it mean that Kalonzo now can also not do it right? If Raila did not do it right, if Uhuru didn't do it right, do we have to say that even Uhuru did not do it, even so-and-so did not, then when are we going to realize the manner of Kenya, the honey of Kenya, whereby we now go forward into democratic governance that we all yearn for? So my view is parties should take the position of the law and encourage everybody to stick by the party policy so that we know where we are actually headed to politically.
All right. And one more headline with the UDA party. Nyoro dropped as member of the budget team in House shakeup. That's Kiharu MP Ndindi. Nyoro is no longer in the Budget and Appropriations Committee. He was kicked out yesterday. Thank you so much. Ishmael Nyaribo, Wakili, Ngujiri Wambugu, former MP Nyeri Town, and Joe Nyoto, Senator Murang'a County. Thank you for your time at TV47 this morning. We also want to thank our viewers, especially those watching us via YouTube at TV47 Kenya. Thank you for watching. Keep it TV47. After the break, being a Wednesday, we talk about matters relationships. Is your phone hurting your relationship? It's a question everyone should ask themselves. That we'll be having Richard Ziwa, Zimbalist, counselor, and Jane Gitawa, psychologist, in studio with my colleague Anno Dida. My name is Fred Indemuli. Do have a lovely morning.